Hi, this is Teresa LaFleur. We're going to discuss Chapter 8, Subject Records Management. Subject Records Management is probably the easiest method of filing. It's based upon really big, broad categories, not so much A, B, C, D, E, even though that does play a part. The main broad subject is what is most important there. You can think of this in how you have your filing system set up at home, and I hope you have one set up at home. So for example, you might have some medical and dental issues going on. So you set up your file, and you would say, like, maybe put all this under I for insurance, and then your broad category would be insurance. And then you would have medical underneath it and dental, but in vice versa order. And you could do the same thing for a company on how they would do it. There are two different arrangements that can be done. One's dictionary, one's encyclopedic. And it says these filing systems are set up just like it says, how it would look like in a dictionary or how it would look like in an encyclopedia. So let's take a look at the first one. This is an example of a dictionary method of filing. And as you can see, we still have the A, B, C, D, E's. But here under C, we have customer service set up. And then you will notice underneath customer service, we have a lot of different things that are related to customer service. And that's how it's set up with that. So it still has the A, B, C, D, whatever. And then you have your main topic of customer service, and then you would have a sub of customer service or some other items that would be underneath that too. This would be an example of an encyclopedic. As you can see, it doesn't have the tabs of A, B, C, D, E, your alphabetical name tabs on there. It just has the subject tabs. So you would have a Founder's Day plans, and then underneath the subcategory would be one for dedication ceremony. And then you could even further have it broken down into the plans and the actual ceremony itself. Or you can take a look at groundskeeping regulations. Plantings would be underneath that. And even further broken down would be groundskeeping regulation plantings. Groundskeeping regulations would also be under there. So as you can see, the encyclopedic looks just like an encyclopedia. It doesn't have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's under broad categories. The dictionary method does have the A, B, C, D, E, F, G tabs. So when you're looking at either one of these methods of filing and setting up your files, color plays a big importance in that, and there's several ways it can be done. Is you could take the main title, such as telecommunications services, and then everything behind it also, and those would be the same color. So for example, you would have timesheets in blue, and then January and July, and then the individual timesheets back here, all that in blue also. The other option is to take the main categories like telecommunications, timesheets, utilities, make them all the same color. So all those are blue, and then maybe everything, the secondary ones are all red, and then the tertiary are all green, however you would like to set it up. But color does play an important part. It just makes it much easier to automatically focus on that particular tab. You would still use your out indexes in this also, just the same way that you have learned in the past couple of chapters. Another thing that you need to make sure and keep track of is you need to have several types of indexes. The master index is probably the most important one, and this is an alphabetic filing of all the subjects as they are listed in the filing system. You really need to keep a copy of the master, a paper copy, somewhere in the office, just in case there's a problem with the computers. You would have that master index available. This is an example of a relative index. As you can see, you have the subject title listed on this index, but you also have any type of other means it could be filed with. For example, it could include any of your cross-references would be in this listing also, because you're looking at any way that it could be filed, not just the subject title. Other types of indexes are a numeric and a name index. The numeric index is when we get into some numeric filing, which we'll do in a further chapter. We'll discuss that. But numeric index, if you are using that method, you have to keep an index of it so you know what the next numbers are, how far it went, that type of information. The best example of a numeric index would be working in a doctor's office, and if they still had paper charts, those are set up on a numeric index. A name index, you do need to keep one of these, and it lists all your correspondence by name, but it also has the subject under which it's filed. The next item we're going to talk about are the steps for storing and retrieving subject records. This is the same as it's been in the last few chapters, but we'll go over it again. So step 1 is to inspect, and that's to make sure that the record has been released. It's no longer needed for current purposes in the office. It's ready to be stored. So you're looking to see if it has passed that test, basically, if there's a mark somewhere stating it's ready for storage. Indexing is where you mentally start looking at it to figure out where you want to store it. If you're using an alpha, what letter does it go under? If it's a subject, what subject, and is there any subset headings that we would need to use? Coding is where you actually write on the document where or how the record should be stored. Are we looking at a subject? So if it's an application from John Doe, or do we have it under applications, or A for A and then applications, and then Doe, comma John, or Doe John, however you wanted to put it on there. That's the actual coding. Cross-references, do we need to determine if there is a cross-reference? So let's say John Doe is our patient's name, but we found out that what their actual name is. There's a cross-reference there. Okay. Sorting is next, and that's where you sort by the main title to determine where it should go and if there are any subdivisions. And then store it, put it into the file. Make sure you put the most current documentation up front, not in the behind, but up front. And then retrieval, that's where you would use that master index. I'm thinking too much medical here. But you would use the master index to locate where those records should be stored with the retrieval process there. Just a few hints on that last activity to make sure that you are entering it correctly. For example, it wants to know what category certain items would go into, and when you're entering that category, you need to make sure you include the alpha in there. So it may be S space sales. You need to include the alphabetic in there. Also, when you're looking at doing the cross-reference for any that needs a cross-reference, do not put a C or a C also in there. It just wants to know the category, what it would be under. It doesn't want to know about the C or C also. So make sure you read your chapter, review the PowerPoint for this, and attempt those assignments. If you have any questions or run into a problem, please let me know.